My name is Adele Kenny. I'm 31 years old, and the last person I ever expected to walk into my bakery was the woman who gave me away when I was 3. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize.
She didn't even ask how I had been.
Instead, she looked at my 1-year-old daughter, Nora, smiled, and said something that made every customer in the room go silent. There she is, the granddaughter who should have grown up with us. For one long second, I couldn't breathe. Marcus had just come through the front door carrying my morning coffee. He heard every word. He looked at me, then at Vera, then quietly placed the coffee on the counter without saying a single word. He already knew. Nothing good ever begins with someone who disappears for 28 years and suddenly remembers your address. At that moment, I still believed she had only come to ask for forgiveness. I had no idea that hidden inside her purse was a folder containing documents that could destroy everything Dawn and Hank had spent their entire lives building. And before that week ended, someone I trusted would admit they had been telling Vera everything about my family for years. The worst betrayals don't begin with strangers. They begin with people who already know where your front door is. When I ended the call with Marlene, I didn't feel relieved. I felt watched, not because she had threatened me, because she had known things I had never told her. She knew Nora had started walking. She knew Marcus had expanded his workshop. She even knew Dawn's heart medication had recently changed. None of that was public. Someone had been talking. That evening I drove to Dawn and Hank's house. The porch light was already on. Dawn was sitting at the kitchen table sorting old recipe cards while Hank pretended to repair a cabinet hinge that didn't need repairing. They looked up together when I walked in. Dawn smiled. Then the smile disappeared the moment she saw my face. What happened? I placed both envelopes on the table. Nobody spoke. Dawn read every word. Slowly. Very slowly. When she reached the sentence asking for $40,000, her hands began shaking. Not because of the money, because she finally understood. Vera hadn't come back for me. She had come back for what I had built. Hank quietly folded the letter. I always hoped she'd leave you alone. That sentence stayed with me. Not hoped she'd apologize. Not hoped she'd change. Only hoped she'd stay away. There was history I still didn't know. 2 days later, the bakery became busier than usual. Wedding season always filled every shelf before noon. Around 11, the front bell rang. I looked up and froze.
Bradley.
He looked exactly like the photograph Vera had mailed. Same nervous smile. Same tired eyes. He stood near the entrance holding his baseball cap with both hands. I think, he said quietly, I'm your brother. The entire bakery became silent. I didn't answer. Neither did Marcus. Bradley looked around awkwardly. I didn't come for money. My mother doesn't know I'm here. That surprised me. He reached into his backpack and placed a sealed envelope on the counter. I found this hidden inside Dad's desk. I think it belongs to you. Before I could ask another question, he walked back outside. Marcus watched through the window until his truck disappeared. Then he looked at me. Open it. Inside was a birth certificate.
Mine.
Folded inside it was another document, an adoption agreement. At the bottom, a signature I recognized. Not Vera's, Marlene's. She had witnessed everything, but something else caught my eye. A handwritten sentence in blue ink. If Adele ever contacts us, tell her the truth. Signed,
Dawn.
I stared at the paper.
None of it made sense.
Why would Dawn's name be inside adoption papers she never should have seen? That night, Dawn finally admitted there was something she'd hidden from me for 28 years. She looked at Hank before speaking. We didn't find you through an agency. We found you because Marlene called us. I couldn't breathe. Marlene? Dawn nodded. She couldn't stop the adoption. But she couldn't live with what your parents were doing either. So, she secretly searched for a family. Us. Everything I believed shifted. Marlene hadn't betrayed me. She had saved me. Which raised a far more frightening question. If Marlene wasn't helping Vera, who was? I suddenly remembered something Bradley had said before leaving. My mom checks your bakery Facebook every morning. Not sometimes. Every morning. This wasn't random. Vera had been watching my life for years. Waiting until I had something worth taking. And if she knew that much already, what else did she know? 3 mornings later, the answer arrived. Marcus unlocked the workshop before sunrise. Someone had already been inside. Nothing expensive was missing. Only one thing. Our business files, customer contracts, bank paperwork, insurance documents, everything connected to the bakery expansion. The police took fingerprints. But Marcus already knew. This wasn't theft. They were looking for numbers. That afternoon, Bradley called. His voice was shaking. My mom knows I came to see you. She's furious. She's coming tonight. At exactly 7. A dark SUV stopped outside Dawn and Hank's house. Vera stepped out first. Behind her stood Bradley's father. For a moment, nobody spoke. Finally, Vera smiled. The same gentle smile she'd used in every letter. Adele, I think it's time we acted like family. I looked directly at her.
No.
We're going to act like strangers. She laughed softly. You wouldn't exist without me. Dawn quietly stood beside me. Neither would she, without us. The room fell silent. Then Hank placed a worn wooden box on the dining table. I hoped we'd never need this. Inside were 30 years of letters. Every birthday, every Christmas, every graduation. Letters Dawn had written to Vera, begging her to meet me, begging her to simply tell me she was alive. Every letter had been returned unopened. Vera's face changed. For the first time, she couldn't pretend. Bradley slowly picked up one envelope after another. You never told me this. She reached for his arm. He stepped back. You told me she abandoned us. You told me she hated this family. You lied. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody argued. Truth doesn't need shouting. It simply waits. Vera looked at me one final time. So that's it. You choose them. I looked toward Dawn, holding Nora in her arms. Toward Hank, standing beside Marcus. Then back at Vera. I never had to choose. They chose me. The day you didn't. She had no answer. Bradley quietly apologized before following his father outside. The SUV disappeared into the darkness. We never saw Vera again. Months later, Bradley mailed Nora a handmade wooden rocking horse. No note. Just one small card. I hope she always knows she was wanted. I placed that card inside the bakery office. Not to remember Vera, but to remember something much more important. Family isn't the people who gave you life. Family is the people who stayed. And every morning when I unlock Kenny's bakery before sunrise, I remember that the sweetest things in life are never the ones we're born into. They're the ones we patiently build ourselves.